Now, back into the actual speech as we exercise this experiment, as we watch Alma give them the formula for carrying it forward. He said, now we will compare the word unto a seed. Okay, now notice he didn't say we'll compare faith to a seed. It's we're going to compare the word to a seed. The word of God, the words that allow us to be able to grow and develop and create this covenant connection with Christ. We're going to compare that to a seed. Notice in verse 28, after introducing that, he says, now if you will give place that a seed may be planted in your heart. So there's this incredible comparison in scriptures, not just here in this section, but in the parable of the sower to the different types of soils. There's something about hard hearts versus soft hearts that really appeal to an agrarian society where they can picture it. You can't go and throw seeds onto hard packed earth. It's not going to do anything. You have to work with the soil and you have to get rid of the other plants and weeds that might be growing there in order for the seeds that you want to grow to be able to have a chance. So he starts by saying you have to give place that a seed may be planted in your heart. If there's no place for that, you're not ready to hear the gospel. Notice the two adjectives here. Behold, if it be a true seed, so it has to be a true seed. It can't be a fake, grain of sand that's painted to look like a seed. It has to truly be a seed. It has to have all of the DNA or all the biological terms for whatever makes a true seed a true seed. It's got to have those. Or a good seed. So it's got to be good and true. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Everything else that we're doing downstream won't matter if it's not a good and true seed. Notice he says, if you do not cast it out by your unbelief, that you will resist the Spirit of the Lord, behold. Now check this out. This is fun. He says, it's going to do 4 things. I don't think that Alma intended for this to be a nice play on words in English, because he doesn't speak English and he's not focused on that. But watch how this works out. Here are the 4 things that will happen. It will begin to swell within your breasts. So step 1, it's going to swell within your breast. Step 2, when you begin to feel these swelling motions, you will begin to say within yourself, it must needs be that this is a good seed, or that the word is good, for it beginneth to enlarge my soul. And it beginneth to enlighten my understanding. And it begins to be delicious to me. Brothers and sisters, he just gave us the nice test to run when we're doing experimentation. Whenever you go into a laboratory or into any kind of scientific experimentation, it doesn't do you any good to experiment and then not be able to measure it so that you don't really know what the results fully were. He just gave you the measurements for our experiment of faith by comparing the word to a seed that gets planted into our heart. It will begin to swell. You'll notice he didn't say it will just pop up and you'll start eating fruit immediately. No, the seed will begin to swell. Something will feel right. You'll notice some movement, some growth. It will begin to enlarge your soul. It doesn't cause you to shrink. It'll actually cause you to turn outward and upward and notice and see and experience things you've never experienced before to the same degree. It will enlighten your understanding. Notice he's got both revelatory instruments involved here, mind and heart combined. So your understanding is growing. Things start to make sense more. You're connecting more dots. And it just tastes good. It tastes right. so that when we're taking those steps of faith on that spiral progression, we are able to keep moving forward. Now, how many of you go to the garden, throw in some seeds after preparing the soil, and you nourish them until you see the seeds sprouting and growing, and you're like, oh, it was a good seed. That's great. Brothers and sisters, we don't plant seeds just to see them sprout. We plant seeds in order to be nourished or to have some final benefit, whether it be flowers or fruits or vegetation or shade. We want some end result that isn't just, oh, yep, it started to grow. In other words, this whole experiment requires a whole bunch of that and a whole bunch of concerted and focused and improving effort in order to have this come to fruition, to bear the fruit. Notice verse 30, he says, but behold, as the seed swelleth and sprouteth and beginneth to grow, then you must needs say that the seed is good. But then he says, verse 32, therefore if a seed groweth, it is good, but if it groweth not, behold, it is not good, therefore it is cast away. I get to interact with and read and deal with a lot of ideas regarding the gospel. Some of them from prophets, seers, and revelators, some of them from wonderfully inspired people, and some from detractors who are trying to destroy faith and tear down faith and cut down trees of faith. And I've never walked away from reading or interacting with articles or material that is intended to destroy faith. I've never walked away feeling better about myself or enlarged or enlightened or with a good taste in my mouth. It always leaves me with an empty, a hollow, just a sour taste in my mouth. It decreases my motivation to want to look at other people and ask, how can I serve you? How can I bless you? It just puts a pall, a dark mist around me whenever that happens. So it's fascinating that he says, if the seed isn't growing, if it's not doing these things, you know it's not good and you can cast it out. We live in a world that is surrounded by all kinds of seeds that are being cast onto the soil of your heart. There are a lot of weed seeds. They don't need a lot of encouragement to grow. They don't need a lot of ground to find root. They're really, really crafty, and they can get in and choke out a lot of good seeds and a lot of good growth efforts. Here's the point. Once again, back to our garden analogy. Nobody would ever go plant the seeds in their garden, wait for them to just start germinating and say, yep, they're good seeds, and then walk away from the garden saying, 3 months from now, it's going to be a beautiful harvest. At what point can we stop nurturing our faith, our seedlings of faith, our seeds, our seedlings, and our plants of faith? It takes an ongoing concerted effort to develop these plants. Look at verse 35. O then, is not this real? I say unto you, yea, because it is light, and whatsoever is light is good, because it is discernible. Therefore you must know that it is good. And now behold, after you have tasted this light, is your knowledge perfect? And he says, nay, it's not perfect yet, because you've just planted the seed and it's just started to grow. But you have to nourish it, verse 37, with great care. You could mark that, great care. And you could translate that into things that we do and that we learn in the gospel of Jesus Christ. That takes great care, great effort to keep working with that plant. And if you nourish it with much care, it will get root and grow up and bring forth fruit. It will. That is the ultimate act of faith, is to continually nourish this. Now, what about the opposite? Look at verse 38. But if ye neglect the tree, and take no thought for its nourishment, behold, it will not get any root. And when the heat of the sun cometh and scorcheth it, because it hath no root, it withers away, and ye pluck it up and cast it off. And Alma's point was, you can't blame the gospel of Jesus Christ at that point for being not good, or saying, see, it didn't work, because it wasn't the seed's fault. It was my fault if I didn't nourish it, if I didn't have watchful care over the plant. But the beautiful conclusion is in verse 40. Thus, if you will not nourish the word, looking forward with an eye of faith to the fruit thereof, ye can never pluck of the tree of life. But if ye will nourish the word, yea, nourish the tree as it beginneth to grow by your faith with great diligence and patience, looking forward to the fruit thereof, it shall take root, and behold, it shall be a tree springing up unto everlasting life. I wonder if he's alluding to the fact that the seed that got planted in your heart came out of a piece of the fruit of the tree of life. Because he says the thing that is growing up that you're nourishing your whole life long, if you keep nourishing it, the day will come when you will partake of the fruit that springs up into everlasting life. Sounds almost like God is giving you a seed from the tree of life to help you grow and develop your individualized tree of life that's custom made, custom fit for you, so that it's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's something that the Lord is working with you individually on developing over your lifetime. Verse 43, then, my brethren, ye shall reap the rewards of your faith and your diligence and patience and long-suffering, waiting for the tree to bring forth fruit unto you. It's pretty beautiful concept, this seed analogy that he's set up for our experiment.